Hello, Amber and I are representing both Zonal and Bums on Seats this afternoon, and we just wanted to share with you some thoughts and some trends that we've observed around bookings in 2022. So we will introduce ourselves in a moment, but I think it wouldn't be fair to do any conversation about bookings without just examining the impact that COVID has had. We then want to just talk to you about the benefits of a booking and the power that having a booking gives to yourselves. And then Amber is going to talk a little bit more about the trends that we are seeing both in consumers and also in the marketplace, and then share with you some thoughts about the opportunities for businesses and how to maximize those opportunities. So I am Alison Vasey. I'm the Group Product Director at Zonal. I've worked in hospitality for the last 11 years, which is a little bit scary. But always on the technical side and understanding how technology can provide a better customer service. And Amber?
Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Amber Staynings, the CEO and founder of Bums on Seats. Those who don't know who Bums on Seats are, we are strategic sales and marketing experts. So anything that there is to know about pre-bookings, if we don't know it, it's not worth knowing. Delighted to be here today talking hopefully about some positivity after the last 2 and a bit years of just carnage for our industry. And we're really hoping to give you some insight into what you can practically do in your businesses tomorrow to drive sales.
So let's just reflect on the impact that the last 2 years has had. So if we look at the consumer, or examine the consumer and the attitudes of the consumer, they're very much their confidence is improving and it's on the rise. There certainly seems to be some pent-up demand for hospitality. People actually just want to get back to the pub. And we've seen that bookings have increased as restrictions were lifted. And that has now sort of translated into new customer behaviour. People are choosing to make bookings for whatever reason it is. It might be they want the safety and security that they've got a table when they arrive, and it gives them some level of protection. Or it might just be, actually, it works really well for me if I make a booking. There's flexible working is continuing, so people are going to pubs at different times of the day and restaurants, different times of the day and different days of the week. Certainly in London, the Friday afternoon business is much lower than it had been, and it's transferred a lot to Thursday. And there's just various levels of consumer confidence around and whether or not they are ready to visit restaurants and pubs. And I think that one will continue for some time. There's still a lot of nervousness about the said COVID. And businesses have also got their challenges. So they are in a state of recovery, and they're looking to see how they can continue the growth that they were enjoying in 2019. There is definitely a reluctance for some people to work in hospitality now, and so most businesses are suffering from shortfalls in staff. There's also some pressure coming from government in terms of business rates and national insurance from April, and a lot of businesses have loans to pay back, which they had to take out during the restrictions. That is all leading to increased costs. And there's a whole competitive environment out there. People have actually got used to being at home, and they're wondering whether or not I need to go out. And so our pubs and restaurants are competing with Netflix and chill, an increase in delivery and all sorts of other gaming experiences that people might want to participate in. There is increased consumer expectation as well. So people, when they do go out, want to make it special. And that means that there's a pressure on our restaurants and pubs to make sure that they can deliver that experience for those consumers. And then there's an awful lot of businesses are having to or have had to reinvent themselves by offering takeaway and click and collect. They're also experiencing new in-house technology in order to service those new offers. And that provides with it, whilst it provides efficiency and productivity of the staff, it also provides with it a little challenge to make sure that people in their teams are up to speed with it and understand how to use it.
I think the final point as well was around discounting and added value and reasons to visit. And absolutely, we're seeing, a movement towards making sure that the discounting is kept on a minimal to protect the bottom line. I think that's really important. That's certainly a challenge that a lot of businesses have had to go through.
And so just look at the benefit of a booking. So the sort of like the tagline for this is the customer who wants to book right now is worth more than waiting for a customer to walk in. And why do we say that? If you have a booking, it provides you with the ability to be able to plan for the arrival of that guest. It helps you to manage stock levels more efficiently so that you only buy the stock that you need and that you're not having to guess how many people are going to walk in and therefore what stock you need. That also in turn leads you to be able to manage your labour and plan your rotas, which then gives you the opportunity to do preparation for the restaurant and the kitchen. And actually, we've noticed as well that people who make a booking actually spend more because there's an opportunity for you to ask for pre-orders and to provide upsells in advance. And when you've got a booking and you're expecting the customer, when they arrive, you're ready, and it means that you can increase your speed of service. If you've got a table management system, it does provide you or enable you to be able to turn tables effectively and to maximise covers. And this is a real skill, and it really requires us to understand the technology and how it is working in order to achieve those benefits. It also gives you the opportunity to give better guest experience. And as people are making a booking, you can actually gain customer data. And also it gives you the opportunity to innovate in terms of the offer that you're giving to customers. You get better feedback if you've got more bookings, and that gives you that learning cycle in terms of what can we do to improve their experience the next time they come. And there is also evidence that people who book are more loyal to you and come back to visit more frequently.
Absolutely. I think, it's music to bums on seats ears in some respects, that whether, operators have been on board with bookings in the past or not, and I appreciate different business models meant that they had a high proportion of walk-in trade. Now, ultimately, Alison, wouldn't you agree? Consumers want to book, they want to book in advance. Those lead times are getting longer. So all of these benefits, which are benefits to us as operators, us as hospitality businesses, actually the most important thing is that it's better for the customer as well. And that by doing that, therefore, you're getting these loyalty and these repeat visits. And what's really interesting is looking at December and January, because obviously there is a lot of doom and gloom. I'm a business owner. I'm as worried about April as everybody else is, especially also my business recovering post-pandemic. So where are we now? How are we seeing this consumer confidence and this desire to book come back? What are the stats telling us? And through our partnership with Zonal, Bums on Seats and Zonal, we're in a really good position to collate some of this data and tell you where the industry is at by sector. So, for example, if we look at the pub sector, first of all, we're seeing a 50% uplift in pre-book sales in January versus December, and that's specifically the first portion of January. That's amazing. If you think about, obviously we know Omicron hit businesses hard, but the fact that we're having such an uplift in what is previously the quietest month of our year, it really does show us that there is optimism to start this year with. And I think that's a really important word with everything we've been through in the last couple of years. In some instances, we've even seen that sales have doubled in January versus their quieter days in December, which is staggering. And certainly in my long history in the industry, I have never seen that reflected before. It just doesn't happen. There's been an increase of 133% in pre-booked revenue in the pub sector for Christmas 21 versus 2019. So had Omicron not have happened, we know that we would have all had, most of us would have had a record-breaking Christmas. Why? Again, because of everything Alison's already said, but pent-up demand is really important. Customers want hospitality. They want to be out in our businesses. We work with a lot of cross sectors, so experiential venues, competitive socialising venues, and we have actually seen inquiries increase fourfold. We're seeing in that specific market, the experience market, that is absolutely the most successful pre-book market that is out there at the moment. And if you are in that market or not, especially if you're not, get yourselves out to competitor analyse some of these businesses, because they're doing it really well. They're offering more than just food and drink, and that now is what customers want. We've had a 57% increase in business confirmed across restaurants in January this year versus January 2021, which is fantastic. And no-shows have also dropped by 3% in December. And God, Alison, didn't we talk about no-shows for so much of last year? And obviously Zonal did this amazing campaign around it. And it's been a real bugbear of our industry. It has honestly cost us millions. So to see that consumers are starting to understand they need to be more loyal is amazing. So basically, in my mind, I read all these stats and I look at this on a daily basis and I go, right, so actually, if I'm a hospitality operator, I have now got so much to capitalise on. So let's have a look at what some of those things are. Now, of course, depending on your business, some of this will be right for you or not, but these are just facts. So we know that the occasions and events market is going to be huge and is absolutely on the increase. Everything from Valentine's Day through to Mother's Day, those classic occasions, obviously Christmas, but more than that, birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations, weddings, people are wanting a different experience. They're coming back out, they're wanting to celebrate. Again, as I've mentioned, we know competitive socializing is seeing the most growth. So what ideas can you take from that market? Is it as simple as a shuffleboard in one of your spaces in the back of your room? What can you do to entice people through your doors based on celebrations and experience over and above anything else and any other strategy that you look at this year? Great news from our friends at CGA that consumer confidence is up by nearly 20%. However, we know that there is a bit of generational difference in there. The older generation are still going to be slightly more nervous than the younger. But of course, with the vaccine rollout, we're hoping that that number continues to increase. I know Cam Media have done some great work in the whole pandemic, really. And they've come with some really interesting stats, one of which is focused on technology. So over 50% of consumers believe that hospitality are behind other industries. And I think we all have to agree with that. But again, what we have to remember is the average customer sat at home who's ordering their Amazon delivery that can arrive the same day, or their Deliveroo from Sainsbury's, which will be there in 15 minutes. Can you tell that I do that quite a lot? They're judging us in exactly the same light. So just because they're booking a restaurant, they do not distinguish between, well, this is a restaurant reservation and this is me ordering my groceries. So we have to up our game. And absolutely, I am seeing some very obvious results of operators that have come out of COVID, continue to work through COVID to innovate and get on top of tech. They are seeing far greater return on their bookings than any other operator. So don't be a technophobe, because we cannot beat it. We have to join it. And the other great news for me, and specifically for my team who do a lot of white label sales for operators, we are seeing the large group bookings back. And actually, some of our clients are seeing group bookings of 17, 18, even, dare I say, the 30s and the 50s are starting to come back now, which is amazing. And something to remember on this, which is so important, is the lead time. So these guys aren't booking a day in advance. They're booking a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance. And guess what? That's bloody brilliant for you. It also means you can get deposits and you can save your business from no-shows. And you've got so many more opportunities to upsell and get that spend per head. So as a summary, occasions, events, experience, larger group bookings, and making sure you're all over your tech. So let's look at some opportunities for businesses. Now, systems, it sounds so boring, but it's so important. And I think, whichever booking system you're using, obviously Zonal, it's really important now for me. The overarching trend here is retrain your managers, get back into the detail of your booking system optimization, how it's set up, because things have changed. Everybody now, GM, deputy, on the floor, should understand how to use that booking system. Even if your marketing function or your head office function is setting up on behalf of the individual sites or operators, it's not a get out of jail card. There has to be accountability at site, because it's changing all the time. So obviously you need to be measuring no-shows. Why? Because it tells you how loyal customers are to you. That is the one thing I always say. If you're seeing a high proportion of no-shows, why does a customer feel that they don't owe you enough to tell you that they're cancelling? Or are you making it too hard to cancel? And transparency, that trend that I spoke about a lot for the last 2 years, that ain't going anywhere. So measure your no-shows to understand your business and if it's a real issue for you, so that you can work out a strategy to fix it. Consider increasing availability. And I know that Alison and I are both fans of this, but maybe, dare I say, over by 10%. Now, look, you do that at peak times because you're probably going to fill it with walk-in. And I know it's a slightly dangerous view, but I would honestly recommend it. Back in the day when I was at Novus Leisure, and we did this really well. We probably took it too far. I think at some times we were overbooking by 30%, and everybody was sat like sausages. And obviously we can't do that now. But the point is, think a bit more strategically. If you know you've got a high rate of no-shows on a Saturday night and you're trying really hard to fix it through loyalty and a better process, but it's still an issue, just overbooked by 10%, it will help with that deficit on your top and bottom line. Where you can, reconfirm bookings. I love SMS. It went off trend and it's so back, especially with your Gen Zs and millennials. A quick text, 1 to confirm, 2 to cancel. It's awesome. Some businesses do it really, really well. And if you have got the staff on your front of house, much easier for a restaurant than a pub. I get that. A quick call to everyone coming at your peak times just to reconfirm, because guess what it also does? It helps build the relationship. And as we know, that is fundamental, most important to us, hence why we're called hospitality. Also, make sure you have got a strategy for walk-ins. I get that some businesses still do want some walk-ins. My argument is actually at the moment, you should all be booking out 100, 110%, because this idea of waiting for that coach party to rock up of 30, it's not back. It's not going to come back for a while, if at all in the same way. So if you still want walk-ins as part of your business, if you're in, for example, a top tourist spot, there needs a strategy to it. Where will they be sat? Do they have the stalls at the bar, for example? Think about that holistically, because it's really important. And how do you get them to stay? Again, there's loads of great technology that can do this for virtual queuing and things, but as simple as, offering them a complimentary drink, a basket of nibbles, something like that while they wait for the table to be finished is key. And that's also why, if you don't optimize your booking system to know when people are arriving, how long they've got the table for, just by shortening the table turn time by 15 minutes, you can actually turn more covers across the evening. And again, that doesn't have to be the same 7 days a week. Sunday lunch, for example, we know people don't want to rush and they need to take their time. How can you juggle your Sunday lunch to capitalize on covers? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to book Surrey every Sunday and it's booked up 3 or 4 weeks in advance. So how do you capitalize on that? Obviously, instant booking is so key. And my God, I've been harping on about this for what feels like donkey's years, but customers want 24/7 instant responses. They don't want to wait. It's exactly the same example I've given you about retail. So make sure that they can do that. If it's anything less than a group of 10, 12, they should be able to book online if there's availability. Absolutely no messing around. They should also be able to choose their pre-order, their time of arrival, any pre-order drink, all of that stuff can be done. It's just about how you set up the system and what capabilities you have. Not everyone will have the same, granted, but instant booking is a must. If you don't have that, guess what? You're going to have more phone calls. More phone calls are bad for business. Why? Because you probably can't manage them, and your customer response time will be terrible. Your conversion rate from inquiry to booking will reduce, and you will lose business. So get your instant booking set up and be really honest about how easy that is. Obviously, your calendar events and occasions to maximize spend and covers is key. We've talked about how important that is. Set that up differently. So again, your Valentine's Day, your Mother's Day, your Christmas, all of that isn't going to be the same as your core trade. So spend time on doing this. There's accountability on who is setting this up. Is it right per site? And how much in advance? 6-7 weeks in advance before any key event or calendar date, you should have your system set up every single time. We have to plan and we have to think further ahead. The days of hospitality, coming into a board meeting or an ops meeting and going, right, let's do that, and getting it live and putting it out on social the next day, they're gone, because someone's already done it 3 weeks prior and you've missed the market. So you have to get ahead, and your booking system is key to that. Obviously, booking system optimization, I've touched on this all the way through. Bookable areas, lead times, response times, turning times, all of that stuff, table joins. It's pivotal. Make sure you absolutely prioritize that in your business. And of course, your packages and pre-orders for the upsell. I'm amazed how many businesses still don't have this or do this. And if you don't have a sales team to do it, speak to Bums on Seats. No, I'm joking, not joking. If you don't have a sales team to do it, put it through the system. Put it through. There's simple ways where confirmation emails it can be included in. There's stuff like that. There's clever things you can do, so at least the customer knows it's an option. If you can't actively sell to them, you can do it through tech and through digital channels. And of course, if you are a multi-site operator and you do not cross-sell times and venues, if you're fully booked at one venue, you are missing a huge trick. And there are some great examples who do this well. If you haven't, check out Flight Club. They are demons at it. So if they can do it, we can do it. Now we move on to my favourite bit, process. So at Bums on Seats, I created the approach to how we look at businesses from a pre-booking perspective. It always starts with systems. We always look at process in the middle. And then only when we've done those two things and those two things absolutely perfect do we move on to the actual selling and the proactive selling bit. So now we're on process. This is everything that your systems are set up for. Do you have the process to match that? The number one thing I talk about all the time is CRT. Customer response time. And I'm so sorry if you've heard me do this before, but it has to be said, because coming out of Omicron again and COVID, and we are out of COVID and this bloody awful pandemic, it's more important looking at those stats that I've shown you around where is consumer behavior, how many bookings and inquiries are coming through, what's that growth. If you don't get back to customers quickly enough, you've lost it. There is a direct link between CRT and conversion rate, and therefore sales. It will have the biggest impact on your top line. It's why process links to systems, because you need your auto confirm set up to be as generous as possible so that helps you out with your CRT. So the point that customers want to speak to somebody and need a response from an inquiry, there's a reason for it and it's more manageable. It's not because your customer journey online or your booking system set up incorrectly and they've got no choice but to ring you or to send you emails. Obviously, feedback and follow-ups is key. We work with some great partners. Feed it back at the top of the list for me. Give them a reason to come back. How are we integrating that? It all links to loyalty. You need a process for it. Who's accountable for that? What's the process? What's the email saying? What's the follow-up saying? How does that work? Customer journey, customer journey, customer journey. If you have not looked at your competitor's customer journey and compared it to your own, you are missing a big trick here. Please do that. It's so amazing to see the difference on where you position that little book now button on your website, the difference of moving it a little bit over to the center, putting it on this page here. Honestly, it has a staggering impact into how many inquiries and how much business you get. Please, please, please do that and make it really clear. I go on your website and look at your customer journey to book, to find out your location and to check a menu. That's all I need to do. So if you're not doing those three things, clearly you've lost it. Obviously, photography, videography, social media, all of that. How are you making sure you've got the right process to keep that fresh and up to date? Customers will be turned off if that isn't good enough. Fact. Instant booking responses. I think I've probably had that message home enough, so we'll leave that one there. Internal structure. Who's handling your inquiries? If you cannot afford or resource a sales team, and they are hard to find, hard to manage, and it is expensive, I understand that. Whose job is it? How are we checking back? How is that working? Remembering that the weeks changed due to the pandemic, peak booking windows have changed, lead times have changed. You can't just do what you were doing before. You have to think and act differently. First impressions count. And big fan of this. It's a great time now to retrain. Yes, it's ramping up. There's never a good time for training in the industry, but please retrain. Retrain your operators, your GMs, your deputies, your front of house staff on what the right processes are for 2022 bookings. Doesn't matter what's happened before. And then the last bit. So if you didn't think I was passionate enough, you're really going to see me go to town on this slide. So this is Sales Toolkit. So lovely friends at CAM, 1 in 5 operators are maximising their customer data. Only 1 in 5. And I go as far to say, I think that's probably too generous. You're hearing it everywhere at the moment. If you're on LinkedIn or going to any industry events, it's all about data. But the problem I think we've got is that you guys operators don't actually understand what to do with it. There's so many systems, but do try and use it in a really effective way. So first and foremost, map out your key booking occasions. If you have not got your calendar for the year done, please do it ASAP. Give that over to the team that are setting up your systems. Make sure we understand what's happening by quarter or by season, depending on how you run your business, and that is followed through in the first 2 parts we've spoken about, your systems and your process. Create this atmosphere and menus for seasonal events. So you need to have reasons to visit. You cannot just do what you've always done. You can't even just dine out on the fact you do food and drink. You need to think of more. It could just be how you dress it up, how you market it, your tone of voice, your language, your brand. But it's really, really important because the market, as Alison has already said, has never been more competitive, and consumer expectation has never been higher. So you have to be best in class at everything. And maybe you don't at everything, but you have to at 2 or 3 or 4 things at least. What are the things that you're going to be famous for? What are your wow moments as an operator? That is the best thing you can do with your sales toolkit. Why are people going to choose to come to me, and for what reason? Obviously, you want relevant messaging scheduled to allow for lead time. So if you can't cater with salespeople, what's happening in those times out of hours? What's happening when people do want a conversation? How are you managing that customer journey and experience? Because all of that is part of sales. Product innovation is key. It's everything I've just spoken about. So events, promotional menus, all of this exciting stuff that you can do now, looking at what, how seasonal can you be with it? How often is your menu changing? Think about your packages. People love packages because it's easy. They pay for it in advance. It's the same as a holiday. So when they turn up, they forget they've paid for it and they spend more money. It's genius. I absolutely do think, and I've got so many friends and colleagues in conference and events, and it's just been decimated, but we are convinced that from September, big scale events and bookings will start to come back. So if you are an operator that has big function rooms, fear not, but you need to get your balls lined up now, because the bookings are going to start to happen from spring for September onwards. So now has not been a better time to think about enticing those large scale events back. Sport. We've seen a 30% increase in one national pub operator just for the Six Nations, which is amazing, and not only just for the England games. Guess what's happening in December as well as Christmas? The World Cup. The games should be in the morning. Great opportunity. Sport is bigger. It's the same thing as hospitality, pent up demand. People have also got used to watching sport at home, and they also want to come out and watch it in hospitality businesses because of the atmosphere. So if you are someone that can do sport, do it really well, because it's a great market. Obviously, outside dining was huge last year because of COVID. It's not going anywhere. We think it's going to be bigger, and competitive socializing will only become more popular. You need to do more than food and drink, as I've said. And this is the last bit I want to share with you that I love talking about with my own team and my own business with our clients. Are you getting a local customer? Is it a customer that's choosing to come to you as a destination point? Therefore, who are your customers? What's their demographic? That all links back to your data and your data capture, understanding those markets differently, because your customer that's in the office round the corner is not always going to visit you for the same reason as someone that's choosing to make a trip and come to you as a destination. So think about them differently. And the same with off-peak drivers. Absolutely, we don't do discounts. We know everybody now always says added value. What does that mean? Well, look, for lunch, it's about express and speed. You're competing with McDonald's, you're competing with a food market, you're competing with Deliveroo. For dinner, it's about the experience. For pub, get back to the pub experience. So, and that doesn't have to be really overthinking it. As Alison has already mentioned, the working week now is longer. You've actually got more opportunity. I might come out on a Tuesday, whereas before I'd only come out on a Friday. The week shifted. So off-peak is key for everybody. And great news, third parties are coming back. So if you do want to go down the route of hens, stags, travel, tour, it's coming back slowly, but it is coming back from the summer onwards, and you have to get your menus together because that stuff is often discounted. But the great news about that business is it very much is off-peak. So just some checklists for you here. So maximising the opportunity. Have you optimized your booking platform? What does that mean? Who's accountable for it? We've got some lovely examples here on the right. Are we making sure that is absolutely as good as it can be to get as many covers in at certain periods and certain times across the week for certain occasions and certain reasons? Have you set up all of your booking rules? And again, by type. So you don't need to set up booking rules as a standard. It should vary. It should be different. That's how you capitalize. It takes effort. It takes work, but the output is huge. The same with time slots and the same with override dates as well. So if you have dates that you know you can't do, they can't deliver, they're fully booked, how are you suggesting other dates or suggesting other times? Because customers need to be suggested to, they need to be told. If it just says 7:30 can't book and they have to scroll through to find an available time slot, you'll lose them. They will give up. Capacities agreed and set up, pre-orders set up, really, really important, and cross-sell. And actually capacities is a really interesting one because, the social distancing, all of that has gone again now. So let's be really realistic. Again, dare I say, What happened if you overbooked by 10% your capacity on peak days? Would it be the end of the world? Probably not, as long as it's within the lines of being legal, of course. Don't get in trouble with the local councils. But my point is, how far can you push that? What does your customer journey look like? Again, so I mentioned it right at the beginning, but here is Flight Club. Oh my God, their API and cross-sell is stunning. I love it. Go and have a little play, go and have a look at it. What can you take from that? What can you copy? How easy is it for your customer to book? Again, remember, play around with where that booking widget is, get involved in your Google Analytics, make sure we understand that customer journey. And have you considered customers coming from third-party channels? So if you are going to go down the route of even the big event agency groups, people like Headbox, Hirespace, Venue Scanner, as well as Chili Sauce for Stag and Hen, as well as Hospitality Line for third party, how are they communicating to you, and who's picking those businesses up and those bookings up? Because again, for third parties, it's all about your CRT, customer response time. So make sure that if you're going to go down the route of, I'm going to go after this piece of business this year, you've got, guess what, the right systems and process that work with it. Are your promotions planned in advance? I've talked about this already, but you have to get your promotions live as latest 6 weeks in advance, latest. And I know it's been difficult with COVID to do that, but now there ain't no excuse. You know, I would love it. Retailers, you go into supermarkets, well, you've been since January, there's Easter eggs. We have to follow that market. We can't be tracking so far behind. Let's talk about the big C, my favorite C, Christmas. I literally was devastated last year. So when should you be launching Christmas? Now? I mean, literally, I know that might seem crazy and some of you are going, oh my God, no, but you have to get Christmas out there as soon as possible. It's so important. And once you've done it. It can just sit there. It can be on your website. You can have a menu for it. Just get it done, because it's amazing how people are going to be booking that very, very early. Are you shouting about special events, menus across all channels, web, social, and house? I'm sure a lot of you are. We know the importance of social media now, but just make sure it's consistent. You know, it's amazing how many times I look at a website and then look at their social media and it's like, whoa, the two don't add up. So consistency is key. Utilizing your database. How are you doing that? It's really, really hard. You know, with whatever CRM system you're using, how are you pulling that data out? Is that your central hub? What analysis are you doing? How are you understanding your customers and therefore building strategy around it? We've got to remove this kind of feeling, not fact, and reverse it for fact, not feeling. And data is your key to doing that. Make sure you send targeted and personalized messages. Again, we all want to do this. We've been talking about it in the industry for donkey's years, trying to copy what Amazon are doing. We've not quite done it. So start small, give yourself realistic targets and goals. You know, how can you segment the data in a simple way just to get those messages out there that are a little bit more targeted than previously. You don't have to try and do everything all at once. Just build up to it and test it. Failing is okay. Getting it wrong is okay. Doing nothing is not okay. So test, what's working, what's not. I had to do the same in my own business all the time. And trust me, I've made so many mistakes. Have you capitalized on previous bookers and lost bookers? You know, how far are you going back? I guarantee you, your corporate database is out of date. So all the people that you were relying on in 2019, it's done. So what's your plan to clean that data, to get back in touch with those businesses? There'll be new people will have moved jobs. We've seen so much of that at the moment. So your previous bookers are great, but clean the data, get a plan around that. Honestly, sometimes old school phone calls still work. And then how can you get new data? Because anything from 2019 really, really is exceptional. It's probably like 10 years out of date, not 3 years out of date, because of what we've just been through. Are the correct menus visible? Very obvious one, but who are we making sure that we're changing that? And that is absolutely on point. And yes, and I think that is my whistle stop high energy tour of systems, process, sales. Lots and lots of ideas and thoughts for you. Again, some of them will be obvious that you're already doing, some hopefully just giving you a little bit of a kick to say, okay, that's really important. I have to get on that. And just to summarize all of this, great news, really positive. Bookings and inquiries are up. Don't waste that opportunity. Don't waste a single inquiry because you haven't got the right system set up, the right process, because they already want to come to you. They're already interested. So how crazy if we still lost that business? Consumer confidence is coming back, 20% increase since July. Amazing. That's only going to increase the longer this, no more pandemic carries on for. We're not going to go backwards. We're only going to go forwards. So you've got a window of opportunity now to sort your stuff out, because that increase in bookings and inquiries, you imagine that 20% consumer confidence doubles. What do you think your bookings and inquiries are going to do? They're going to double. So if you're falling over on a few things now that we've already run through, it's going to be even worse. This is no better time for you to sort it. Opportunities include, but not limited to, ensuring your bookings are streamlined to be as efficient as possible. Really, really important. Okay, so making sure that you are efficient and planned and organized. And I hate saying this because it's so against my personality, but plan for the worst. Absolutely. And plan. What's going to go wrong? Customer's going to find your website too complicated. They're going to make a phone call. No one picks up the phone. They're going to send an email. No one gets back to them in 48 hours. What do you think the customer response time should be? Well, it should be an hour, if not instant. How many operators are doing that? Very, very few. So how can you get as close to that as possible? Scope to maximize on the trends by using the checklist for systems, process, sales and marketing. And obviously you're all going to watch this back and you're all going to have that checklist. So you can just go through and have a little look at that and make sure that those key trends that I've spoken about, just to summarize, what are they? Experience is number one, occasions, celebrations, number two, in no particular order, group bookings, number three, all of these things. And actually, I think they're probably here to stay, but all of these things are so important. If you don't have a strategy around those as an operator, for me, you're really going to miss out on a lot of business. And lastly, because this wouldn't be a free webinar without a little plug, we are elated to be working so closely with Zonal and offering these strategic sales expertise on the back of all of their amazing technology and data. So to reflect this partnership and how much Zonal love their customers, we have actually got a health check. So it's a streamlined version of my systems, process and sales audit that's bespoke just for Zonal that we're offering to Zonal customers. Please speak to your Zonal account manager about that. It doesn't cost you anything, which is great. So why the hell wouldn't you? And it just gives you an idea of where you actually are failing at the moment, which sounds really blunt, but where are the bits that you need to do better at to capitalize on this booking growth that's only going to increase throughout this year. So that was me. Thanks so much for listening to our whistle stop tour. Alison, any final words?
No, just thank you very much, I think, Amber. So there's some great insight that you've provided and so much energy and passion behind bookings. It's just brilliant. Thank you.
Sad. I mean, honestly, I need to get a life. Guys, I hope we'll see you all at many of the wonderful industry events, or a coffee or a beer at some point. So have a lovely day. Thank you for listening to us. Bye.
Bye-bye.